Okay, but if that's who they are, if they think that they're a girl, why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl? My point of view is that there's a reason, there's a distinction. There's a reason why we make the distinction to have male athletics versus female athletics. But then someone comes along that was a man for 30 years and decides that they're going to be a woman, and this has happened, and literally transitioned a few months ago, and competes as a woman and destroys records and dominates you in that sport. That's bullshit. People don't know who they are. A 7-year-old, you won't even, people don't even give their 7-year-old phones. You don't let them vote. You're going to let them decide what sex they're going to be for the rest of their life?
They always underestimate him. They show up to the podcast thinking they're about to teach Joe Rogan a lesson in progressive compassion, that they'll overwhelm him with big words, tear-jerking stories, and polished sound bites. But what they never expect is that he's going to hit them with reality. No fluff, no fake smiles, just one surgical question that pops the entire ideological bubble like a needle through a balloon. And when he asked it, this guest didn't just hesitate, they froze. Because Joe Rogan didn't argue. He didn't mock. He didn't even raise his voice. He just said something so obvious, so brutally honest, and so completely untouchable by woke logic that it left the room dead silent.
Okay, but if that's who they are, if they think that they're a girl, why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl?
Because... I'm sorry, can you expand on the question?
It's a simple question. If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones.
Mm-hmm.
If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. Like, you don't have... Why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body.
If your kid thinks they're a girl, why do you need to give them hormones to prove it? That's it. That's all it took. One question. And it was game over. Let's make something crystal clear right now. This isn't about hate. It's not about judging someone's identity. It's not about policing how anyone wants to dress or behave. This is about the line where beliefs turn into prescriptions, where feelings become medical procedures, where children, literal children, become patients in an irreversible experiment. That's what Joe Rogan exposed, not with fury, but with facts, not with emotion, but with logic that even the most passionate activist couldn't rebut. Because no matter how many TikToks go viral, no matter how many blue-check journalists defend it, you cannot escape the basic truth. A child cannot consent to lifelong medical consequences.
People don't know who they are. A 7-year-old, you won't even... People don't even give their 7-year-old phones. You don't let them vote. You're going to let them decide what sex they're going to be for the rest of their life?
We're not talking about letting a boy wear a dress, or calling someone by a new name, or giving them space to explore. We're talking about drugs that alter brain chemistry, that affect fertility, that restructure bones, that stop puberty in its tracks. We're talking about medications that require informed adult consent, being handed out to children still learning basic math. What the hell are we doing? Since when did parenting mean putting ideology over biology? Let's zoom out. Because this isn't just one podcast or one guest getting roasted. This is a global conversation that elites don't want you to have. In Sweden, they pulled back on youth gender care after kids suffered serious complications. In the UK, the Tavistock Gender Clinic, once the crown jewel of trans-affirming care, was shut down. Shut down. After an independent review, found that young patients were being fast-tracked to transition without proper psychological assessment. Even liberal countries are tapping the brakes. But here in America, if you question a single step of this process, they call you a bigot. And Joe Rogan? He's not scared of the mob. He's scared of what happens when we stop thinking altogether. Because the new rulebook says this: if your 5-year-old says they're a girl, you affirm it. If they still say it at 7, you go to a gender clinic. If they still say it at 9, you start puberty blockers. And by 13, cross-sex hormones, potentially surgery by 16. No questions asked. Is this compassion or is it compliance? And who benefits from this system? It's not the child, it's the industry, the pharmaceutical companies, the gender clinics, the activists who build careers on outrage and identity politics. This is big business, masked as moral virtue. Let's say it plain, kids are being used as emotional leverage, used as shields against criticism, used as walking proof that progress is happening, even if it means sacrificing their bodies in the process. But Joe Rogan said no, not angrily, not even aggressively. He simply refused to play pretend. If identity is innate, why does it need to be chemically reinforced? If someone is truly a girl inside, why do we need to reshape the outside to match? Because deep down, the woke guest knew the answer. And it wasn't the one they wanted to say out loud, because the real answer would expose the truth that this isn't about affirmation, it's about transformation. Radical, medical, permanent transformation. And the irony? The same activists who scream about loving kids as they are won't let them be who they are without a prescription pad. That's not love. That's control. That's not protection. That's performance. Because when you put ideology ahead of reality, you're not raising children. You're raising soldiers for a political cause.
My point of view is that there's a reason, there's a distinction. There's a reason why we make the distinction to have male athletics versus female athletics. The reason is that males have a physiological advantage over women. So if you're a woman and you're a natural woman and you don't take any extra hormones or male hormones, you're not taking steroids or any sort of performance-enhancing drugs, you're doing your very best to compete and you're at the top of the heap. But then someone comes along that was a man for 30 years and decides that they're going to be a woman, and this has happened, and literally transitioned a few months ago, and competes as a woman and destroys records and dominates you in that sport. That's bullshit.
And Joe Rogan saw that coming from a mile away. What made the moment so powerful wasn't the question itself. It was the reaction, the stammering, the attempt to reframe.
That, I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfectly level playing field. I think we decide what kind of playing field we want to have.
Sure, but we do make the distinction where we don't allow men to compete in women's divisions.
And I think that distinction may be breaking down a bit, right? And I think it may be time to break down that distinction a little bit.
So you think that males should be able to compete in the women's division of weightlifting?
No, I don't necessarily.
But they can if they transition.
Well, first of all,
the nervous energy of someone who knows the house of cards is wobbling and can't do anything to stop it. Because there are only two ways to respond. Admit that it is a choice to alter a child's biology, or deny that it's a choice, and pretend that injecting hormones into an 11-year-old is natural. Neither answer works, and that's the trap. The minute you admit hormones are optional, you admit they're a choice. The minute you say they're necessary, you admit identity depends on biology. Checkmate. If you're tired of watching common sense get canceled, smash that like button. Comment below, should kids be given puberty blockers? And if you want more fire like this, hit subscribe and ring that bell. We're not done shaking the system. This episode wasn't just a conversation. It was a wake-up call. Joe Rogan didn't destroy his guest. He destroyed a mindset. The mindset that says children should carry the weight of adult politics. The mindset that says medical risk is worth it if it makes you look progressive. The mindset that says silence is safer than speaking up. But silence won't save us now. The only thing that will: questions. Simple, honest, uncomfortable questions. And Rogan just proved that one good question can break the entire illusion. And if that one question left them speechless, imagine what happens when millions start asking it. This isn't about sides anymore, it's about truth. And the truth doesn't care about your hashtags, your politics, or your feelings. It just is. We're here to expose, to question, to burn the script they tried to force feed you. Subscribe now and join the rebellion against woke insanity. Because if Joe Rogan can shut it down with one question, imagine what we can do together. We're just getting started.